Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the propagation characteristics of electromagnetic waves in conductors. So we will see in this lecture how the electromagnetic waves behave when it propagates down in a conductor. So first let's discuss some of the properties of the conductor. Conductors are supposed to have unlimited supply of charges. As you know that in an insulator such as glass or rubber, each electron is on a short leash attached to a particular atom, but in a metallic conductor, one or more electrons per atom are free to roam. Usually, a perfect conductor would contain an unlimited supply of free charges, but in real life, there are no perfect conductors, but metals come very close for that purpose. Conductors follow the Ohm's law, that is, if you apply the electric field across the conductor, then the current starts flowing. So the free current density is given by sigma E. This relation holds in a conductor here where sigma is called as conductivity of the conductor. Other properties of the conductors are E electric field inside the conductor is equal to 0 and charge density is found 0 inside the conductor. Okay, rho is equal to 0, rho F is equal to 0 inside the conductor, and any net charge resides on the surface. So let's see why electric field inside a conductor is 0. Suppose if you put a conductor inside a external field, okay, so if you put a conductor in external field, okay, so this external field applies forces on the free charges of the, as you know that conductors have the unlimited supply of free charges. So these free charges, because of this external field starts moving, so anywhere in this volume the charger will start moving at the end, and this will produce an internal field, okay, and this internal field will be exactly equal to the external field. Therefore the net electric field E is equal to 0. Okay, so charge density inside the conductor is also 0. This can be explained using the continuity equation for current density. Suppose Jf is the current density, then it can be related with the charge density by this equation. Rate of change of charge density is equal to the divergence of Jf. So you can suppose this is your equation number 1 and this is your equation number 2. So you can substitute in place of J from equation number 1, then you will get divergence of sigma E is equal to minus del rho F by del T, or you can write it as sigma divergence of E is equal to minus del rho F by del T. And you know that from Gauss law you know that divergence of E is given by rho F by epsilon 0. So in place of divergence of E we can substitute rho F by epsilon 0. So here this equation takes the form rho F by epsilon 0 minus del rho F by del T. Okay, so you can also write this equation as del rho F by del T is equal to minus sigma by epsilon 0 rho F. Call it equation number 3. So this is a differential equation, And if you solve this equation, you can find the rho f as a function of minus sigma by epsilon. Rho f is a function of time, means if rho f I is the initial, what is rho f I? Rho f I is your initial charge density, initial charge density. If rho fi is the initial charge density, then it means it decreases, as a balloon charge density decreases with time. This equation tells us, let's call it equation number 4. Equation number 4 tells us that initial charge density decreases with, exponentially decreases with time. We can define tau as epsilon by sigma. Okay, so this tau is called characteristic time, characteristic decay time. So this equation takes the form rho f is equal to rho fi e to power minus t by tau. So if you plot this equation, okay, so rho f on y axis and t on this axis, okay, so you find that if this is your rho f I initial, and with time it starts decreasing, and in t is equal to t is equal to, and at t is equal to tau, it becomes 1 by e times of their initial charge density. So we can say that any initial free charge density rho fi dissipate in a characteristic time tau is equal to epsilon by sigma. uh, okay, so this charge density decays in this time, and this is called characteristic decay time. So this reflects our familiar fact that if you put some charges on a conductor, it will flow out to the edges or surfaces. So while discussing the conductors, we can take rho f is equal to 0 after this characteristic time. This characteristic time tau, that is epsilon by sigma, tau epsilon by sigma, tells us how the conductor is good or bad. So you can say that characteristic time affords the measure of how a conductor is. For example, for a good conductor, for a perfect conductor, for a perfect conductor, sigma is equal to infinity, and it gives tau is equal to 0. So characteristic dissipation time for a perfect conductor is 0. But for good conductor, let's see, for a good conductor, for a good conductor, tau is very small compared to 1 by omega, where omega is the oscillation frequency of the charges inside the conductor, or you can say that this is the frequency by which the electromagnetic waves are moving. So, and for a bad conductor, tau is very large compared to 1 by omega. So this tau characterizes how the material is. For a good conductor, characteristic time of dissipation is 0. For a perfect conductor, characteristic time of dissipation of charges is 0, but for a good conductor it is very small. And for a bad conductor, characteristic time of dissipation of charges is very high. For example, if you put some charges inside the conductor, inside a insulator, it will take a very large time to dissipate from its volume to the surface. I want to say it takes a very large time to flow out from its volume. So while discussing the propagation of electromagnetic waves inside the conductor, we are not interested in the transient behavior. Means we are not interested in the time regime in which charges flows from the volume to the surface. Why this is so? Let's see a simple example, tau for a metal. So tau for a metal is, you know, that epsilon by sigma, and epsilon is your of the order of 10 to power minus 12 and sigma is of the order of 10 to power 7. So it is approximately order of 10 to power minus 19. So this characteristic time for a conductor is very small. So this time does not matter for us in most of the cases. So that's why in the present we are not interested in the transient behavior. We will wait for the accumulated free charges to disappear. Okay, so this discussion allows us to use rho f is equal to 0 for conductors. So now everywhere we will use rho f is equal to 0 when discussing conductors. Why? Because we are interested not in transient behavior, but we will discontinue our discussion when the charges accumulated inside the volume will disappear to the surfaces. The behavior of the electromagnetic waves inside the conductor can be deduced from their wave equation. So first we will find out the wave equation using the Maxwell equations, and we know that the Maxwell equations inside the medium, Maxwell's equations inside medium can be written as, so first relation can be written as divergence of D is equal to rho free, okay, where D is electric displacement and it is defined as epsilon E, okay. So this equation can also be written as divergence of E is equal to rho free by epsilon 0, okay. This is your first Maxwell equation. Sorry, this is not epsilon 0, this is only epsilon, because we are talking about the our medium that we are concerned about is conductor. So epsilon is the conductivity, sorry, epsilon is the permittivity of the medium which we are dealing with, okay. So here correct it, it is epsilon. And let's see, we have also done one mistake here. So this is also your epsilon, not epsilon 0, because epsilon 0 is used for permittivity of free space. So okay, so this is first equation. Similarly, you can write second equation as divergence of B is equal to 0. This is your equation number 2. And the third relation for electric field, that is the Faraday law, is given by curl of E is equal to minus del V by del T. This is your third relation. And the fourth one is curl of B is equal to mu J free plus J D, where this is equation number 4, where JD is epsilon del E by dt and it is already discussed, and it is displacement current, displacement current. J free is the free charge density and Jd is the Jeffrey is the free current density and JD is the displacement current, and displacement current is defined as epsilon times rate of change of electric field. So these are the Maxwell equations for conductors. So you know that since electromagnetic wave, when electromagnetic wave will propagate inside the conductor, and you know that electromagnetic wave consists of electric field vector and magnetic field vector, so they will must follow these relations. Now our, just as we have discussed, that J free is equal to sigma E, okay, for conductor, and if you are not considering the transient behavior, then rho f can be taken as 0 inside the conductor. This is a free current. So now substituting these in equation 1 to 4, we can rewrite the Maxwell equations for conductors as, so the first equation will take the form divergence of E is equal to 0, and this is for conductor. Let's rename it, let's name it again equation number 1, and the second relation is divergence of B is equal to 0, okay, this is your second relation, and the third is curl of E is equal to minus del B by del T. Third, now to write the fourth relation, substitute in place of J free sigma E, and in place of JD epsilon del E by del T. So your fourth relation can be written as mu sigma E plus mu epsilon del E by del T. This is fourth Maxwell equation. So these are four Maxwell equations that holds inside the conductor. So you see that these are the coupled equations of electric field and magnetic field. So in order to deduce the behavior of electromagnetic wave propagation inside the conductor, we must have a wave equation. So first we will find out the wave equation for conductor, wave equation for electromagnetic wave inside the conductor. To find out the wave equation, we should take the curl of equation number 3. Now taking curl of equation number 3. If you take the curl of equation number 3, you will get curl E in left hand side, and in right hand side you will get del by del T curl of B. Okay, this is equation number, let's name it equation number 5. Now using the product rules, we can write left hand side as del dot E minus del square E is equal to, now in place of curl of B we can substitute curl of B from equation number 4. Okay, so it can be written as mu sigma E plus mu epsilon del E by del T. Okay, and we know that as we have already discussed, since rho f is equal to 0 inside a conductor, when we are not considering the transient behavior, then in that case we can take divergence of E is equal to 0. So this term will be, can be considered as 0. So you can write it again as del square E, and here minus mu sigma del E by del T plus minus mu epsilon del square E by del T का square. So here is also a negative sign, so we can write it without negative sign as, let's cancel it, minus minus each side. So del square E mu sigma del E by del T plus mu epsilon del square E by del t का square. So this is your wave equation inside the conductor. So this is electromagnetic wave equation for electric field inside conductor. So if you will notice that it is different than the electromagnetic wave equation of a free space. Del square E was equal to 1 upon V square del square E by del t chi square. And this was the wave equation for free space. Okay. Now inside the conductor you have find out the electromagnetic wave equation looks like this. However, if you solve this second order differential equation, you will get the plane wave solution of this equation, and it can be written as, so the plane wave solution of this equation can be written as E is equal to, this is the corresponding electric field is Ei k dot r minus omega t. Okay, where k vector is wave propagation vector, and omega is frequency of the wave. So this, if you solve this equation, you will get the plane wave solution of for electric field. Similarly, we can find out the, if you take the curl of this equation, that is curl of this equation, and then we can also obtain the wave equation for magnetic field vector, and the solution will be similar. Then your magnetic field vector solution, plane wave solution of magnetic field can be written as e to power I k dot r minus omega t. So this is the plane wave solutions of these equations, okay, for wave equation for conductor. So now, okay, so this k is wave propagation vector. Now the wave equation for magnetic field can be written as mu sigma del b by del t. This is similar equation like this: mu epsilon del square b by del t chi square. Okay, so let's call it equation number 6, this 7, and this 8, and this has 9. If you will use the relation del is equivalent to ik and del by del t is equivalent to minus I omega, and put these relations in equation number 6, we will get minus k square e. Why minus? Because del square means I k chi square, it means I square is minus 1, so it is k square e minus, the second if you substitute, it will give mu sigma minus I omega, so you can write it as minus mu sigma omega e tie I. Okay, similarly here you will get mu epsilon and minus I omega chi square. Okay, or you can write it as k, this e is also there, so you can write it I square, you will give the minus sign, so you will get k square is equal to mu epsilon omega square plus I mu sigma omega. This is your relation between wave propagation vector and frequency. And once we know the k, we can define many properties of the electromagnetic waves. So this is the expression for k square. So you can obtain the value of k, and clearly you can guess that a wave number k is a complex quantity this time. So you can say that k is a complex quantity. So if you compare with the case of electromagnetic waves in free space, in that case k was a real quantity, but here k is a complex number. So you can name this equation as equation number 10. So since k is a complex quantity, so we can assume that k have some real part alpha and imaginary part beta. My purpose is to find out the value of k from this equation number 10, because once we know the wave propagation vector, we can get a lot of information how the electromagnetic waves are propagating inside the medium. So our main purpose is to find out k here. So name this equation as equation number 11. Okay. Now let's square on both sides. So k square will be equal to alpha is alpha plus I beta ka whole square. Okay, and it will be equal to alpha square plus beta square. Sorry, this is will be minus because this is with iota na. So I square is equal to -1. So alpha square minus beta square plus I to alpha beta. So your k square will be equal to this term. Okay, so now you have the value of k square as alpha square minus beta square. This is the real part of and here is the imaginary part 2 alpha beta. Okay, so let's call it equation number 12. Now compare equation number 10. Now compare equation number 10 with 12. Once you will compare, you will find that alpha square, what I am doing, this is expression for k square, and this is also that we have obtained the wave propagation vector k square is equal to this. So what I am doing, the comparing the real and imaginary part of this equation number 10 and equation number 12. So alpha square minus beta square will be equal to mu epsilon omega square, and this alpha beta is equal to mu sigma, sorry, this alpha beta here na, this alpha beta is equal to mu sigma omega by 2. So mu sigma omega by 2. So let's call it equation number 13, and this is your equation number 14. Clearly what I have done, what I have considered, since this gives us some idea that k is a complex quantity. I have assumed that k is a complex number having some real part and imaginary part, that is k is equal to alpha plus I beta. So what I have done, I have squared both sides of equation number 11, and we obtained k square is equal to alpha square minus beta square plus I to alpha beta. Now these equation number 10 and equation number 12 represent the same value. So we can compare equation number 10 and 12. If we compare the, so only real part can be compared with the real part, and imaginary part can be compared with imaginary part. Okay, so in this case alpha square and minus beta square will be equal to mu epsilon omega square, and alpha beta will be equal to mu sigma omega by 2. So our purpose is to find out the real and imaginary part of this k. Okay, since we know alpha square minus beta n square and we also know alpha beta, then we can express alpha square plus beta square in terms of these. Okay, so we can write it as alpha square minus beta square का whole square plus 4 alpha square beta square. This term is equal to this term. Okay, and so you can write it alpha square plus beta square is equal to plus minus square root of alpha square minus beta square का whole square plus 4 alpha square beta square. So let's name this equation as equation number 15. Now we can find out the value of alpha square minus beta square from equation number 13 and alpha beta from equation number 14. Now let's substitute from 13 and 14 to equation number 15. We'll get mu square epsilon square omega to the power 4 plus 4 times, and this is your mu square sigma square omega square by 4. So 4 and 4 will cancel. So the value of alpha square plus beta square is equal to plus minus mu square epsilon square omega power 4 plus mu square sigma square omega square. So this is your equation number 16. Now from equation number 13 we have alpha square minus beta square, and from equation number 16 we have alpha square plus beta square. Okay, so you can solve equation number 13 and equation number 16 to find out the value of alpha beta. So now if you add equation number 13 with equation number 16, okay, then if you add you will get 2 alpha square is equal to mu epsilon omega square plus minus this term mu square epsilon square omega to the power 4 mu square sigma square omega square. So alpha square can be written as mu epsilon omega square by 2 plus minus epsilon mu omega square by 2 inside the square root 1 plus sigma square by epsilon square omega square. I have taken this term common, so we can further take the common mu epsilon omega square by 2, and inside bracket will have 1 plus minus 1 plus sigma square by epsilon square omega square. Okay, so this is the value of alpha square. So we can find out alpha by taking square root of this side. So if you take the square root of this side, you will get mu epsilon omega square by 2 in bracket 1 plus minus 1 plus sigma square by epsilon square omega square to the power 1 by 2. So in more precise form you can write it as plus minus mu epsilon omega square by 2 in bracket 1 plus sigma square divided by epsilon square omega square to the power 1 by 2 whole power 1 by 2. This is the value of alpha. Similarly, if you do the similar analysis and solve for beta, then you will get the expression. So you can do yourself. You will get the expression beta is equal to epsilon mu omega square by 2 in the same term, and 1 plus sigma by epsilon omega का whole square minus 1 to the power 1 by 2. You will get this expression. This is for beta. So this was equation number 16, so you can call it equation number 17, and this will be your equation number 18. So once you know alpha beta, you can find out k as alpha plus I beta. Now let's write the plane wave solution of equation number 6 and equation number 7. So this is the solution of equation number 6 and this is the solution of equation number 7. So here it is expressed in terms of k. Now it express it in terms of alpha and beta. So our E will be equal to E0 e to power I. What is k here? Your k is alpha plus I beta. Okay, dot r and minus omega t. So let me correct here. If you assume that wave is propagating in z direction, that is wave is also in z direction, so k dot r will give you k z. So in that case you can write it here alpha plus I beta. So what we have assumed that a wave is along propagating in z direction. Okay, I am not telling what is the polarization, but I am just assuming that wave is propagating in z direction. So the k dot r value will be kz. So we can here I have substituted in place of k as alpha plus I beta, in place of dot since there was no dot product, because the dot product gives kz value, so kz can be written as I alpha plus beta z minus omega t. Okay, let me rewrite. E is equal to E0 e to power I alpha plus I beta z minus omega t. Okay, similarly we can write for magnetic field as B is equal to B0 e to power I alpha plus I beta z minus omega t. So it's your equation number 19, 20. So you can also write this equation as E vector is equal to E0 e to power I, and I will I square, that is a minus 1, so beta z plus into e to power I alpha z minus omega t. Okay, and similarly for B you can write B0 e to power minus beta z e to power I beta z alpha z minus omega t. So these are your equation number 21 and 22. If when the k is imaginary, the plane wave solutions for electromagnetic wave will be of this form. Since k is imaginary when the electromagnetic wave propagates inside the conductor, so this tells us about the electric field and magnetic field vector behavior inside the conductor. So if you closely see if you carefully see this equation, you will find that the uh, imaginary part of k means beta. Beta results in attenuation of the wave. Okay, so beta is here. It tells us that as the wave propagates in the z direction, its amplitude decreases, whereas alpha is responsible, means the real part of the wave propagation vector is responsible for oscillatory behavior of the electric field, but imaginary part is responsible for the attenuation of electric field, okay, or attenuation of magnetic field. So this beta is responsible for, means this term is responsible for the attenuation of electric field and magnetic field when it propagates inside the conductor. So this tells us that as the electromagnetic wave propagates inside the conductor, its electric field vector and magnetic field vector decreases with distance. So here uh, we are now in a condition to define skin depth. So from this equation, we know that as the electromagnetic waves propagates inside the conductor, its electric field amplitude decreases with distance. Also, its magnetic field amplitude decreases with distance. So the distance it takes to reduce the amplitude by a factor of 1 by E is called skin depth. So if now from this discussion we know that if E0 is the amplitude, then it is a function of distance z that electromagnetic wave propagate inside the conductor. So it can be given as E0, that is initial amplitude, uh, into e to power minus beta z. So when z is equal to 1 by beta E0, z becomes E0 I by E. So when z is equal to 1 by beta, okay, when z is equal to 1 by beta, its amplitude becomes 1 by E times of initial amplitude. So the distance, this distance z is called skin depth. It is a measure of how far the wave penetrates into the conductor. So let me make it more clear from a diagram. Suppose this is the wave is propagating in z direction, okay, and here you plot the electric field vector as, so it will varies with distance as. So this is for when E is given by only E0 e2 by alpha z minus omega t, okay, it was I alpha z minus omega t. But if this expression have the attenuation term e to the power of minus beta z, then in that case the electric field amplitude will start decreasing as it propagates inside the conductor. So the distance up to which electromagnetic wave can penetrate inside the conductor is called its skin depth. Now let's find out the expression of formula for skin depth. So as you know that skin depth is equal to z is equal to 1 by beta. And what is beta? Beta is the imaginary part of the wave propagation vector. So you can write it as 1 upon plus minus epsilon mu omega square by 2 into square root of 1 by sigma epsilon omega का whole square minus 1 whole power minus plus 1 by 2. So you can further write it as d is equal to the skin depth. Make it more clear, skin depth d is equal to 2, it will go above, so xylem mu omega square, and if this term will go in the numerator, there will be minus 1 by half. So we can write it as 1 plus sigma by epsilon omega का whole square minus 1 to the power minus 1 by 2. So this is the general expression for skin depth, where omega is the frequency of the wave, epsilon is the permittivity of the medium, sigma is the conductivity of the medium. We know that. Now let's find out the skin depth for good conductor. Okay, for good conductor. So for good conductor, conductivity is very high compared to omega. So we can take as sigma by epsilon omega square is greater than 1. Okay, so your D will be equal to 2 epsilon mu omega square, and since this term is greater than 1, so it will absorb this 1, and the square root of sigma by epsilon, this term will be equal to so you can write here sigma by epsilon omega minus 1 to the power minus 1 by 2. Okay, so you can further write it, since this term is again very high, sigma is very high compared to this, so sigma by epsilon omega is very high, so it will also absorb this term. So you can write it 2 epsilon mu omega square into sigma by epsilon omega to the power minus 1 by 2. Okay, so you can also write this as 2 epsilon mu omega square into epsilon omega by sigma. Okay, so epsilon will cancel epsilon, 1 omega will cancel 1 omega, so you will have the expression as epsilon have cancelled now, so you have a expression mu sigma omega. So the D for a good conductor is 2 divided by mu sigma omega. So this is for skin depth for good conductor. So now let's see what other characteristics of electromagnetic waves inside the conductor can be find out. So these are the Maxwell equations. So from relation 1, we can write divergence of E is equal to 0. This means that Ik dot E is equal to 0. What I have done, in place of del I have substituted Ik, because these both are equivalent. So here you can say that K is perpendicular to E. Okay, means wave propagation vector K is perpendicular to electric field. Similarly, from equation number 2, you can say divergence of B is equal to 0. It implies that B is perpendicular to K. It means since both electric field vector and magnetic field vectors are perpendicular to E, so you can say that inside the conductor EM wave is a transverse wave. Okay, now from the third relation, that is curl of E is equal to minus del B by del T, we can write from equation 3, you can write in place of your equation is curl of E is equal to minus del B by del T. Okay, so in place of del, we can substitute Ik, and in place of del by del T we can write minus I omega So if you'll do this, you'll get I k cross E is equal to I omega B. Okay, it means you can find out the electric field if you know the K and E. So your electron B vector can be obtained as K vector cross E vector by omega. So let's see one example. Suppose that an electromagnetic wave passes inside the conductor in z direction and it is polarized in x direction. So the electromagnetic field vector is given here, that is E0 e to power minus beta, where beta is the imaginary part of the wave propagation vector and alpha is the uh, real part of the wave propagation vector. So this is where electric field vector of a electromagnetic wave, so inside a conductor. So you can find out the corresponding magnetic field vector by this expression. So you can write B. So this is polarized, the direction where the electric field oscillates. No? So suppose this is your x cap means electric field is along x axis. So polarization means direction in which the electric field vector oscillates is known as the polarization of the electromagnetic wave. Okay, so here the polarization is along x axis. Suppose if E vector oscillates along y axis, then you can say that E is polarized along y direction. Okay, so B can be obtained as uh, you can write K by omega, since K is along wave is propagated in z direction, so K is along z axis, so you can write it uh, z cap cross E is along x cap. Okay, this gives the direction, and rest of the time K by omega is multiplied by E0 e to power minus beta z, okay, into e to power alpha z minus omega t. This will be your corresponding magnetic field, vector. So z cross x gives you y cap. So E0 e to power minus beta z e to power uh, alpha z minus omega t, and zx is y cap. So you see that if electric field vector oscillates in x cap, so corresponding magnetic field vector oscillates in y cap direction. Okay, so E and B, E, B, K, both all are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so this will be the representation. E is in this side, B is in this side, and wave is propagating in this direction. Okay, we know that since here K is in the form of alpha plus I beta. Okay, so you can write it as K is equal to mod of this is K, mod of this K is into e to power I5. Okay, so in this notation you can write this, na, where K is mod of K is alpha square plus beta square, and phi will be equal to tan inverse beta by alpha. So you can write like this. If you substitute here, so you'll get B as K by K, in place of K we can write mod of K by omega into E0 e to power minus beta z, and this term we will add in this equation. So you will get e to power I alpha z minus omega t plus phi. Okay, so let's see these two equations. This is the equation uh, that describes the electric field oscillation of electromagnetic wave inside the conductor, and this is polarizing along x-axis and this wave is propagating along z-axis. Now when you calculated the corresponding magnetic field, okay, when you calculated the corresponding magnetic field, we have obtained this expression. So if you compare these two, so there is an additional term of phi inside this exponential. Okay, so your b can be written as b0, okay, e to power minus beta z e to power minus e to power I alpha z minus omega t plus phi, and this is along uh, y cap, na, this is along y cap, this is along y cap, so magnetic field is polarized along y cap. So this is the expression for magnetic field, okay, the magnetic field vector. So you see that again beta is the attenuation coefficient, so it tells us that as the wave propagates inside the conductor, magnetic field amplitude also decreases with distance. Okay, means wave will attenuate, but both electric field and magnetic field attenuate as the wave propagates inside the conductor. Secondly, one more thing is that there is a phase factor phi in this term. This means the magnetic field lags behind the electric field inside the conductor. So this phase factor is phi is given by tan inverse beta by alpha. Okay, so when there is only real component, so there was no phase factor. In that case, electric field and magnetic field was in same phase. When the electromagnetic wave propagates in free space or in vacuum, so electric field and magnetic field are in same phase. It means that when E vector is maximum, then V vector is also maximum. But in case of conductor, when E is maximum, it is not necessary that B will be maximum. It means that there is some lag between electric field vector and magnetic field vector. Okay, here I have written B0 na, so B is the magnetic field amplitude and it is mod of k E0 by omega, and this is the nothing but velocity of the wave inside the conductor. So B is equal to E0 by B. So you can say that electric field amplitude is V times of the magnetic field amplitudes. Okay, electric field amplitude is V times of magnetic field amplitude. Let's discuss the pictorial representation of electromagnetic wave inside the conductor. So from here you can see that electric field vector of electromagnetic wave, as it propagates along z axis, its amplitude decreases with distance, and this wave is along x axis. So this term shows the oscillatory behavior of electric field, and this term shows that electric field amplitude attenuates with distance. So if you, and this is a, and you see that it is polarized along x axis. The direction where electric field oscillates is called its polarization. So if you draw a three-dimensional axis, so suppose it is your x-axis, this is your y-axis, and it is your z-axis. So in this equation tells us that E is polarized along x-axis, and as wave propagate, its amplitude decreases with distance. Okay, so you can plot like this. Its amplitude is decreasing with distance. So this is the direction of oscillation of, okay, electric field vector. So it have oscillatory behavior, but as it propagates in z direction, as it propagates inside the conductor, its amplitude decreases. So this tells us the direct electric field vector. Now if you see the corresponding magnetic field that we have calculated, when it was polarized in the x direction, it was polarized in y direction. Okay, and also one thing to note that as it propagates, magnetic field amplitude also decreases along with distance. Okay, so the attenuation of amplitude also takes place for the magnetic field, and also there is one additional term of phi in the phase. It means when electric field vector is maximum, B is not maximum. Okay, it means E and B are not in same phase. The phase difference between these electric field vector and magnetic field vector is given by this equation, that is phi is equal to tan inverse beta by alpha, where alpha is the real part and beta is the imaginary part. So if you plot this, so since magnetic field, you can say the magnetic field lags behind the electric field, so you can start from some earlier point and it will be like that. Okay, so this is your plot for magnetic field oscillations. So you see the magnetic field is polarized along y-axis and it lags a phase by phi, and both the waves are propagating in z direction and their amplitudes are decreasing with distance. Okay, this was how the electromagnetic wave inside a conductor can be represented by a picture. So now let's stop here.